good. Do good work.
I will.
I'll miss you.
Miss you too.
Bye.
It's Monday, September 27th, 2021, the day after the end of Overland Expo West. I'm exploring BLM roads in northern Arizona just outside the Grand Canyon. If you look at your map between St. George and Kanab, Utah, to the south of there, but to the north of the Grand Canyon, there is this sprawling backcountry ripe for exploration. I was in this area back in spring earlier this year and it was a little bit too wet, so I decided to come back at a later date. And here we are. It is certainly very dry right now. We left Overland Expo West in Flagstaff yesterday very abruptly as soon as the event was over. We wanted to travel further north into the Arizona backcountry to seek out a base camp where we could park our Winnebago Revel for the week. We ended up driving all the way past Vermilion Cliffs and into Kanab National Forest. In the dark, we found a very nice and secluded, clean campsite with a fire ring. The campsite is surrounded by a bunch of towering ponderosa pines, and it was also just across the street within walking distance from a vault toilet. We do have a bathroom in the Winnebago, but the thing about that is what goes in has to come out. So when we find a vault toilet right near our dispersed campsite, that's a win. Honestly, it's a nearly perfect base camp for the week. The problem is, before we left Flagstaff, we forgot to replenish the freshwater tank in the Winnebago. And I'm fine. I have all the water that I personally need here in the Jeep, but she needs a water supply throughout the week for herself and Finegan. So I don't know where I'm going to find Shannon and the van at the end of the week. They're probably going to head up toward Utah. I'm going to stay out here exploring in Orangie for 2 nights, and then I'm going to rendezvous with them either later on Wednesday or Thursday morning. Wow. I've seen the Grand Canyon before, but I think this might be the best view yet. The overlook is at the end of a 10-mile track, and that's just from the park boundary. It is probably closer to 60 miles from Pavement. So you're going to want to keep an eye on your fuel situation and make sure that you have ample food and water if you decide to make the drive. You can camp back in the park by the overlook, but you need a special backcountry camping reservation or a permit, other than just a regular park pass. For that matter, I don't have that permit, so I backtracked to BLM land where I'm looking for a place to spend the night. This'll do nicely. This campsite is a good find, and the light really is this golden right now. I'm not messing with the white balance on the camera or anything. It's the setting sun at 6:15 p.m. reflecting off of the storm clouds to the east. I went ahead and temporarily closed the camper and relocated downstairs in the Jeep. This seems to be a violent and slow-moving electrical storm, so I'm going to err on the side of caution and hunker down. I was going to hang out outside, make something for dinner, sleep with my windows open, which might still happen when the storm passes. But this is the unfun part. Just sitting in the back of a car. What an extraordinary place to spend the night. The view is amazing. It's around 6:30 a.m., a little bit chilly, maybe in the upper 50s, lower 60s, and I just watched the sunrise over the Grand Canyon. It does not get much better than this. Bit of a scare this morning with Orangie. After that segment where I was up in the camper and I was like, oh, what an extraordinary place to camp, I went to unlock the Jeep using my key fob and nothing happened. But that's not entirely true. It didn't unlock the doors, but it started clicking horrendously, a very loud clicking coming from under the hood somewhere. So first I tried to put the key in the ignition, turn the Jeep on. Nothing. The dashboard isn't lit, no response except for the clicking under the hood. My first reaction was, what a great place for Orangie to break down. Beautiful view. I wonder how many days I'm going to be forced to stay at this campsite. What a shame. And then my next reaction was, I'm 60 miles from Pavement, off of a primitive track. Extraction is going to be a pain in the butt no matter how you shake it. Despite the amazing view, this is the wrong place to break down. It took me a few minutes, but I found that it was the horn making the clicking noise, so I unplugged both horns. Then the loud clicking went away, and there was a milder, more subdued relay clicking coming from the fuse box under the hood on the passenger side. I started haphazardly pulling relays and putting them back in, and I could not find where it was coming from. Then I thought the doors, unplugged the doors, so I went around the Jeep and unplugged all the doors at their wiring harnesses. After doing that, I don't know if it was coincidence or not, because I am moving very hastily, but the clicking stopped and the dashboard was lit up again. I went to turn the engine on, and it was dead. The short circuit quickly depleted my crank battery, probably in a matter of 15 to 20 minutes. Fortunately, the Genesis dual battery kit has a magic jumpstart button. You press that button, and then it joins up the house battery and the crank battery like a jump start. I press the button and climb back into the Jeep to give it another shot, and Orangie started right up. I'm not sure what the exact cause of the problem was. It could have been vibrations from yesterday's drive. It could have been the torrential downpours last night and water got somewhere where it shouldn't have. But for the time being, I'm leaving the doors unplugged, the hood is popped so that the engine compartment can dry out if it needs to, and I have the Jeep idling. I've had the Jeep running for over an hour now, and it's been fine, but I just want to make sure that the batteries are topped off if it happens again. It's funny because during Overland Expo, a lot of folks came by and asked how many miles are on the Jeep, 190,000, and how's it running, and I'm like, yes, it's doing great, no problems whatsoever, it doesn't miss a beat. So yeah, I jinxed myself. But for what it's worth, I'm not stranded. We're back up and running. What would I have done if I hadn't been able to start the Jeep? I didn't have any cell service whatsoever, but I did have my Garmin in reach. So I would have probably sent Shannon a text message saying, "Hey honey, Orangie's broken and I'm stranded," and together we would have considered our options. Who do we know in the area? Are there any local companies that provide backcountry towing or repair? So I had communications, and although the crank battery was drained, I still had the house battery for 12-volt power, and also the solar panel, and also I have a backpacking solar panel. So I was never at risk of running out of electricity for my communications. I can say that without the Garmin in reach, that situation would have been dire, and I would have been sweating bullets. I am all settled in for tonight at the end of a very sandy BLM Road spur. It is not a proper campsite, just a flat spot where I could get some shut-eye for tonight. Any guesses what state I'm in now? Utah. Yeah. It is almost 7 p.m. I'm losing daylight, so I am going to make breakfast. I'm famished. Tonight, I am reheating Mexican food. I think these used to be tacos. I don't know what the purple bits are. I think they're supposed to be purple. Except I don't think that's supposed to be blue. Scrap that. I am going to have something else. Instead, I am having other leftover Mexican. And I know for a fact that this Mexican is more recent than the last Mexican I attempted to reheat. This used to be a very delicious looking fry bread entree, but to reheat it I reduced it to a nondescript porridge. Still very delicious, and the protein is pulled pork. What is that thing? From camp, it looked like this gap in the cliffs didn't have this much slope. I thought that there would be a footpath to the top that'd be relatively gentle. Alas, that is not the case. Looks can be deceiving from afar, and I'm not going to be able to go up there. No more problems or weirdness with Orangie in the last 24 hours, although I still do have all the wiring harnesses for my doors unplugged. I also found yesterday that I have a big screw lodged in the shoulder of my passenger side tire. For the time being, the tire is holding air. At 15 psi, it didn't lose any air overnight, but that screw is all the way through. I attempted to remove it yesterday, and air started gushing out. Oh, that is a puncture. I'm gonna have to take care of it soon, and I might have to use the ARB tire repair kit if a tire shop won't put a patch plug in. I say this in almost every Utah video, but the landscape here is otherworldly. I came across this impressive red rock formation just popping out of the sand, almost like a castle that was built here intentionally. But this is why we explore discoveries in the backcountry like this. Pavement is right on the other side of this wash, and there are no winch points. Just because of this right here, I'm going to have to backtrack for miles. In hindsight, I'm glad that there were no winch points. I think that dragging Orangie through that mud would have been a bad call. Hub deep in mud, okay. But if you're up to your door sill or your frame rail, then you're asking a lot from your winch. Not to mention the cleanup would have been horrible. So far I've backtracked 8 miles, but I'm not sure if there's an easy out. So I could have 2 miles to go, or another 10 miles to go. After 3 days in the backcountry, I reunited with Shannon and we got an RV site at the Kanab RV Corral. This is a small RV campground in downtown Kanab, and we like to do that every now and then because we plug the Winnebago Revel into the 30 amp to top off the lithium batteries, we get laundry done, a shower, and it's also a good place to refill our fresh water tank. Before we settled in at camp, we went out on a date to Peekaboo Canyon Wood-Fired Kitchen, which specializes in delicious pizza, craft beer, and the like. It was a restaurant where I really wanted to take Shannon because I ate there a few years ago and I remembered it being very good. I'm going to call that a wrap, but first I want to thank everyone that I met at Overland Expo West in Flagstaff, Arizona this past weekend. So many of you took the time to visit myself, Shannon, and Orangie in the Ursa Minor booth, and it was really wonderful getting to know everyone, and I received a lot of great and extremely heartfelt feedback. That means everything to me, to hear from you face to face what you think of Venture Forward and my video series. Above all else, and all other forms of support, it keeps me going just to know that you enjoy watching, so thank you. As always, I hope you all enjoyed this week's adventure. Thanks for following along, and I will catch up with you next week.